Hi, everyone. My name is Liz, and I'm the coordinator of Sexual Assault and Interpersonal Violence Prevention and Education. And today we are hosting a Supporting Survivors workshop with Counseling Services and the Women's Center. We have two different presenters on, myself and Mallory, and I'm going to let Mallory introduce herself.
Hi, my name is Mallory McGee, and I'm the Mental Health and Wellness Educator and Outreach Coordinator for Counseling Services at DePauw.
Thanks, Mallory. Something to note is that this is a Supporting Survivors workshop, which means that we are talking about sexual violence, which can be traumatic or retriggering for anyone who's listening. So please feel free to stop at any time or step away if you need to. We have that counseling services specific understanding, which is for our live webinars, so it's not as relevant for this one, but thank you guys so much for being prepared with that. Alrighty, so today we already talked about our roles and our guidelines. Then we're going to focus on vocabulary and talking about sexual assault, the responses someone might have to sexual assault, how we can support someone who has experienced sexual assault, and then how virtually we can provide resources to someone, as well as self-care and additional resources that DePauw provides to students. So the vocabulary of sexual assault is something that's really important to discuss because every person who's experienced sexual assault is going to respond to it differently. And we want to make sure that we're not placing vocabulary and terms on someone. They're the one who has the autonomy to make the decision about what it is. So first, we're going to talk about how someone may identify. There's three kind of ways that people may identify. And the first one is survivor. I've survived the experience. This is who I am. And this is a pretty common term, but some people may choose to not identify with that term, and that is perfectly okay too. And they can just identify themselves as someone who has experienced sexual assault. There's really no right or wrong answer between those two terms. It's really, truly up to the person who has experienced that sexual assault. You'll see that third word up there, victim, which is something we in our professions truly try not to use when we're talking about sexual assault. It's something that's often used in criminal justice, and we let them keep that vocabulary over there. We truly try and focus on using only survivor or someone who has experienced sexual assault, because those are the common terms that someone who has experienced sexual assault will likely identify with. Victim is something that a majority of people who have experienced sexual assault will not want that term to be applied to them. Next, you'll see the word sexual assault. We were very obtuse and obvious about the fact that we did not put a definition here, because if someone tells you they've been sexually assaulted, it's not your role to judge whether or not that is the case. So if someone's been sexually assaulted and they come to you asking for support, it's not up to you. They have said they've been assaulted, so you're supporting them as someone who has experienced sexual assault. We really want to emphasize this, because no matter who it is, we want to make sure that that person is receiving the opportunity to be in control and is in control again and receiving autonomy over their decisions. So you don't want to ever challenge someone who says, if they come to you and say, I've been sexually assaulted, they've been sexually assaulted. Let's support them through this process. Immediate responses to sexual assault. Just like when we're talking about how someone identifies with being sexually assaulted, it's the same thing when we're talking about responses to sexual assault. Every single person is going to respond differently. There is no formula for how someone responds, but in the immediate moment, there's three kind of psychological ways that someone could respond, and that's fight, flight, or freeze. Fight is engaging in attempts to stop the event, and that's fighting back, such as pushing, shoving, different things like that. Flight could be attempts to run away, hide, escape. And freeze is when the body struggles to react at all to the event, and a lot of people describe it as disassociating from their body. So my body's there, but my mind is not. These are what we reference as like immediate, like in the moment of the sexual assault, how someone responds, but we're going to talk about those post-sexual assault responses as well. So these responses, some people may experience during the sexual assault, but a majority of the time it occurs following the sexual assault. And that can be disassociation, scattered memory, or thought. They could forget certain details about the event, or they could completely disassociate it from their body and not think about it. Another thing could be having scattered memory about everyday life. Trauma affects this in very different ways. There's a lot of science out there, and we're still learning so much about it, but what we know is that every single person responds differently to trauma. It could be doubting actions or reactions. So someone could start eating a lot, or maybe they're sleeping a lot or a little, they're crying more often than they would have. And then, excuse me, and then not trusting the decisions that they make within their own body. But really, we want to look at this last one, which is really important when we're talking about the stereotypes that are often placed on survivors of sexual assault or someone who's experienced sexual assault. And that's this idea of actions or reactions not matching the feeling. And this is really important because as a society, we assume that a survivor is going to fight the sexual assault in the moment. And then they're either going to go to police or they're lying, or that they're going to be sobbing and that they are experiencing this super traumatic moment. And so we're going to see a ton of emotions. That's not necessarily true. Just like the other things, trauma makes our brain do a lot of different things. Someone could be laughing when in their mind they're experiencing these really sad emotions. They could be yelling at people trying to help. They could not be able to talk about it, even though it's all that their brain is processing, right? They could go back to doing what their daily routine was because it's giving them some sort of control. So we really have to understand and push back on this idea that there is one way that someone who's been sexually assaulted will respond, because every single person is different and there is just no way to know how someone will respond. When someone says they've been sexually assaulted, we take their word on that and we support them through that process. Okay.